A recently released study on wind turbines in Maine shows a clear correlation between turbine noise and sleep deprivation for those living near the machines. For some Fairhaven residents, the study has confirmed what they already know. Karen Isherwood owns one of the closest homes to the turbines. She's asking the town to amend the contract with the turbine developer to have the turbines shut down at night. But the town is waiting on the results of a sound study by the Department of Environmental Protection.
The results of the sound study makes absolutely no difference on the health impacts we are feeling right now. Either way, we're feeling it. Whether they're in compliance and not in compliance does not matter to what is happening to us.
She feels turning the turbines off from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. would allow residents to sleep peacefully and allow the turbines to run during the day when most people are not at home. Isherwood's request to the Fairhaven Board of Selectmen this week was rejected. I'm Jim Phillips, WBSM News.
News and conversation. AM 1420 WBSM and WBSM.com.
My dear friends, we are in studio with Louise Barteau and with Karen Isherwood, and it's a pleasure to have you both of you with us. Louise Barteau is a member and volunteer of Windwise, and folks, this is an organization that is not against wind power. It is advocating for responsible siting of industrial wind turbines. So a lot of folks have a misconception of, Windwise, they're against wind power. They are not. They just want reasonable and responsible siting of industrial wind turbines. That's not too much to ask. Joining Louise in studio is Karen Isherwood, who we just heard on the 5 o'clock news, who is a Fairhaven resident and who lives 900 feet from one of these behemoths. Welcome both.
Thank you, Phil.
It's a pleasure to have you back, Louise, and it's very nice to meet you, Karen.
Thank you.
We just heard you on the 5 o'clock news. For folks who weren't tuned in, you were referring to last night's select board meeting in Fairhaven. Can you summarize for us, what took place? Did anything surprise you or disappoint you about last night's meeting, Karen?
Well, last night's meeting, I went in hoping to get some sort of resolution for the effects on my home, myself and anyone who's been affected by the turbines. And I was surprised that I did not receive a warm welcome or barely acknowledged when I tried to approach the selectmen for a question at the end of the meeting.
How were you greeted?
Almost ignored. I was waving my hand and finally was noticed and said, "Yes, can I help you?" And I told them I know I was not on the agenda, but I have tried quite often to get on the agenda. So showing up, I was hopeful that I would be listened to. I had a question. Mm-hmm. The question did not go over well.
What was the question?
How they could possibly rectify the situation. I have approached them before to get some relief.
And the situation is what?
The situation is we are not sleeping at my house, and it isn't just the nighttime disturbance by the turbines. It's also during the day, which we do leave the house often, every day, my daughters and I. But at night, you cannot, and you have to just endure it, and it's like a constant beating of a drum in your house, and you can't get away from it, and you try to sleep. You sleep for short periods of time. You're consistently woken. It never goes away. Only once in a while there's some quiet nights when they're barely turning, or sometimes they're not on at all. And those are very welcome in my home.
Oh, my gosh.
It's difficult. We are sleep deprived. As far as I'm concerned, we're severely sleep deprived. I never realized how that felt and all the side effects from it. It's horrific. never, after living in this town my entire life, did I think I was going to be subjected to something like this. And never did I think I would be denied help from my town. I am desperately asking for help. And my surprise with the meeting and all of the meetings I've gone to asking, I'm being shunned and turned away and told, sorry, we cannot help you.
This is so sad to hear.
It's not just disturbing. It's I feel almost a mourning because I love this town. I've always loved this town, and we are seriously deciding whether or not we need to just abandon the house.
Oh my God!
We'll never be able to sell it where it's located. And if we did, it wouldn't be nearly what it would be worth. So we may very much after the holidays. I would love to spend at least one more Christmas in my home, but after that, I don't think we'll be living in Fairhaven.
Karen, this is absolutely unacceptable.
It is. And
do the town leaders, are they understanding about this? Do they at least offer you a consoling chair to sit down and to listen?
No. The chairman has been, I don't want to say ignoring my requests, but that's how it feels.
Explain what he's doing. What is he doing?
Not acknowledging at all. Just not. I call and I call. Also, my health board. I call consistently, and I've gotten on the agenda several times, but I get the same answer back. They're waiting on the sound study.
Wait, okay, back up. You call them for what reason?
I call them in order to ask to please have the turbines stopped. They have the power. They have, factual knowledge now that they are harming people.
Karen, do you want these turbines stopped for good or during the nighttime only, or when?
I personally have asked for it at night because I'm trying to understand that we do need wind power.
And you're not getting the kind of response other than wait. We're going to wait for a study? Is that what they're saying?
Yes, they're waiting on the conclusion of the sound study that's happening right now.
All right. Louise Barteau, I want you to come in. What study is this all about, and what does it mean?
Well, Laurel Carlson of the Department of Environmental Protection was asked by the Board of Health after they received over, I think, 140 complaints when the turbines were first turned on in a very short period of time. So the problem is that boards of health, this is new, and they don't know what to do, and they are looking for help. So they've reached out to the Department of Environmental Protection, and they've come in to do sound studies. They did the first sound study they ever did in Falmouth in last March, and they found they found that it was out of compliance. Wind 1 was out of compliance, and they shut it down at night. So when Laurel Carlson came here, I asked if I could go along as a citizen advocate, as a volunteer. I'm an artist, which means that I don't work 9 to 5, so I have that next day to recover. And I can talk about the testing, but I'd like to say one thing first, which is that when you're standing out there in the middle of the night in people's backyards and they turn the turbines off, it's profound. Then they turn them back on, and it's dominant. The sound is dominant. It's mechanical. It's pulsing. It's repetitive. It doesn't stop. Thwump, thwump, thwump. And then we go to the next house, and they turn them off again. And you hear the wind in the trees, the crickets, maybe a motorcycle going down the road. But a motorcycle comes and goes, and the turbines don't. They are there, and people who are in their homes have no control. And I've also been recently to several presentations by Mr. Sumal Shah of Fairhaven Wind about the Fairhaven turbines.
He owns them.
He's part of the Fairhaven Wind. Sumal Shah.
Oh, okay.
Gordon Dean, and Jim Sweeney.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things when they present about these turbines, they never mention that there was a considerable opposition to these turbines before they went on. There have been citizens in this town who were aware, who did research, who figured it out in advance. These are too close to people's homes.
You're saying that they had adverse information but didn't share it with the public?
Well, yes, absolutely. And one of the things that people in Fairhaven say a lot about this situation is that, well, there was a vote. Well, in my mind, if there is a vote where people are not properly informed, that's not a true vote. A democracy depends on the media. It depends on the truth.
If the people knew then that these cause this kind of a problem or these ill effects and put it up to a vote, that vote would be different.
I think so.
Oh, absolutely. And when I look into the eyes of somebody like Karen Isherwood, I mean, they're filled with tears. I can't imagine losing my home because of these industrial-sized turbines disturbing your lives and causing these ill effects. So what happens in a case like Karen's when it comes to a study? Will these studies vindicate the little person who seems to be not being heard?
Absolutely. And if you think about how the science and how these studies start, they usually start with one person going to their doctor and telling them, this is what's happening to me. And in a rural area, that doctor may be visited by many people who have and show the same symptoms. And then if that doctor is willing to put the pieces together, like Michael Nissenbaum in Maine, who is one of the principal author of the study that was featured in the Standard Times on Saturday, if you have a hero like that who's willing to stand up and ask questions, I think that will be the way that people are helped. Unfortunately, right now, it's a bit of a struggle. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of political issues involved. There's a lot of money involved. And that always complicates the issue.
Always does, doesn't it? We're going to take a quick break.
I may be crazy.
Welcome back at 996-0500 as we talk about the effects of the industrial-sized wind turbines in Fairhaven and how this is now affecting homeowners. One who's in studio, Karen Isherwood, a Fairhaven resident, all her life, who lives 900 feet from the turbines and whose life has been set just topsy-turvy and is thinking of abandoning her home. Can you imagine this, folks? Can you imagine abandoning your own property? This is completely unacceptable. Joining us also is Louise Barteau, a volunteer and member of the Fairhaven Wind Project. You were in Falmouth for a conference. Was it a humanitarian conference of sorts, Louise, or what was it about?
Well, the conference was arranged around the issue of human rights because the issue of the rights of people has really come up with this problem. So, the speakers were great. The speakers were some of those very people, the heroes that I talked about, who listened to people and said, wait a minute, this isn't right. So we heard from some really great people who have done amazing work. But I was also really, really touched by two of the Falmouth residents there. And the first was a woman named Sue Hobart, who has abandoned her home.
My gosh.
Her home is near the Notice Webb turbine. And eventually, it's the only thing you can do to make your health improve. There's nothing you can do if you stay. There's a name for people like this. It's turbine refugee. And what it is that you make a decision that your own personal health is more important than the value of your house. Not many of us would make that choice very easily.
No.
At the very end of the day, Neil Anderson and Barry Funfar sat and talked about their experiences in Falmouth. And Neil's ready to leave Falmouth too. He's getting ready to leave his home. And he has been an amazing fighter. He has spoken out here in Fairhaven and in other places. He's traveled all over. He's put his heart and soul into fixing things and making things better. And it breaks my heart to see him ready to leave his home.
Turbine refugee.
Yeah.
What a just a shocking phrase. Turbine refugee. Wow.
The study by Nissenbaum, which one of the things that no one's talked about this new study, but I found really fascinating, is that 77.8 people in Maine that they used in the study are ready to leave their homes.
This is beyond, the reasonable point of we need action here. Last night at the select board meeting, did you receive the action, or at least attempt to receive any kind of action that would make you feel better?
I have received no action, and I have been to many meetings over and over again, and last night's gave me no hope whatsoever. I thought maybe with the new information out there and people calling into the health board and, with their complaints online, I thought maybe they would realize that this was not a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
They have all of that knowledge now, and I really thought they cared about the residents of Fairhaven.
It reminds me of these intersections where it takes so many people to get killed at, and the state to say, all right, we're still studying this, to have them, in time resolve it by saying, oh, you know what? That's a dangerous intersection. That's how government usually works, unfortunately. 996-0500 is our number if you'd like to join us. I see some phone calls there, but Louise, this was an incredible conference, I'm sure.
It was. I just was really struck by what you just said about studying something to death. Two acousticians, professional acousticians, wrote into the Standard Times recently, and that was the title of their letter. Turbine residents feel that these are being studied to death. We have the information. These are not good for humans to live near. Right. We already know that.
Do you think, giving the reason we have to wait for an official study, is an official excuse?
Absolutely.
All right. 99605. We can see through what it is. 9960500. We want to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen, your points of view on this. Caller, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. The two ladies are up there. This is what I want you to do, okay? I want you to say a prayer, talk to God, spread the word with everybody, and He'll take care of the problem.
It's always in His hands in that respect. Rocky, thank you. Is that what it's going to take? An act of God, Karen?
Yes, I have a feeling.
I feel quite hopeful. I feel quite hopeful because there's an extraordinary amount of science, and that's coming up from all over the world. These problems have bubbled up in Australia and UK and Denmark. Everywhere they put these things close to people's homes, people are talking about it, people are organizing, people are educating themselves, and I really feel that and at the same time, science is starting to catch up. Science is slow, but it's there. This last study sits at the top of sort of a pyramid of knowledge, and leads to the next pyramid of knowledge. But it's all coming together, and I think that unfortunately that the town was sold a bill of goods. That just wasn't true.
Well, they can change their minds by putting a stop order and, of course, risk getting sued, right?
Right. What's interesting is the contract provides almost no protection for the residents.
Wow.
I personally asked for property and health guarantees from Mr. Shaw repeatedly. I think there's a lot of videotape with me asking the same question, and he refused. So why would a wind industry not guarantee the property and the health of its residents if it's supposed to be so benign?
Oh, wow. And the town council, obviously aware of this, went right ahead and recommended that this was a good contract?
Well, I can't be in the hearts and minds of others, but I can tell you that there were more than a few of us that made a considerable effort to point out the science that was available before these were built. Mm-hmm. And I also am privy to emails that were exchanged. One of the things that really disturbed me about this was that the vote on the new school took place.
Right.
There was a congratulatory email from the head of Fairhaven Wind to the town, and construction started almost immediately afterwards. Now, I think the parents of those school children in that new school should have had a chance to see all of the information, not just the information the wind industry wants you to hear, but all of the information.
What do you see coming up? Is there any hope, any resolve, any kind of compromise? What do you think?
Well, the first thing that I'm working on right now is we're going to get together with the towns of Kingston, Scituate, Plymouth, and Fairhaven, and we are going to put on an evening of factual information about turbine acoustics and testing. So I always think that the answer is education.
People also want scientific peer, studies that are sanctioned by the scientific community. Do you agree?
Well, science is a process, and peer review is a part of the process. It's not the only part of the process, but it's a process that I think is a good process.
Sure. Yep. Folks, if you have any questions or comments, 996-0500 is our number. The Wood School is going to be completed when?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And your concerns are that obviously the effects that are with the Isherwoods and other families near these turbines will also affect the teachers and the children at the new school.
I'm especially concerned about the children that live under the blades and will go to school under the blades. Where are they going to get relief?
Yeah. We're going to take one more break and then come back, and we'll wrap things up with Louise Barteau, a member and volunteer, and Karen Isherwood, a Fairhaven resident who lives about 900 feet from these industrial-sized wind turbines, in just a moment. We certainly have something to talk about. And it's more than just talk. That's the name of this show. It is about the effects, the ill effects of these wind turbines, and even folks abandoning their homes. I can't imagine abandoning one's home and property because of a wind turbine. And these folks are now, and I never heard this before, are now considered to be turbine refugees. Louise Barteau, a volunteer and member, is joining me along with Karen Isherwood, a Fairhaven resident who lives very close to these industrial-sized wind turbines. How many are in your family, Karen?
There are three of us, myself and two daughters.
Are the children, are they doing well? Or?
Well, they're adults now, 23 and 25. So, no, they don't sleep. We're not, ever since the turbines have turned on, we are not well, but we very much were before, which is... that in itself is, the factual evidence I'm talking about. Right. There's been a huge change in our lives since April 22nd.
And, Louise, these changes, they include sleep deprivation. What else are now directly associated with these things?
The most commonly reported effects are headaches, palpitations of the heart, excessive tiredness, stress, anxiety, tinnitus, which is ringing in the ear, hearing problems, sleep disturbance, migraines, and depression. And the relevance of this new study for these symptoms, it's really important because what they did is that they looked at two two of these, sleep disturbance and mental health, and they looked at people who lived very close to the turbines, same size as these, and those who lived farther away. And it was quite shocking how causal the living close to the turbines are. And one of the findings that surprised one of the authors, Jeffrey Aramini, who I listened to in an interview lately, he was surprised at the causal link between anxiety and depression. They're dealing in fairly small numbers because they're in rural Maine, but the statistic. Nobody in far away from the turbines was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, whereas 9 out of 23 people living close to the turbines were diagnosed with mental health issues. Sleep disturbance is a huge problem because that can lead to many other problems.
Of course.
And what if you were a person with diabetes? The turbines go up, you start not sleeping, and all of a sudden you can't control your illness.
In fact, sleep deprivation also contributes to obesity.
Yes.
996-0500. Let's take a call or two before we summarize here. Hello there, caller. Nice to have you with us. Go right ahead.
I am calling from Florida, Massachusetts, and I'm in a very similar situation as Karen. We're dealing with currently the Hoosick project is about to turn on. They have not turned on the turbines up here in the Berkshires. There are 19 1.5 megawatt industrial wind turbines done by Iberdrola, the largest renewable energy company in the world. It's a Spanish-run company, and I had no idea that they were going to be where they are. I knew they were coming. There has been a court battle for 8 years at the state level, and a year ago, finally, since 2003, it's been in litigation, and finally, Deval Patrick, after months of determination in the courts on wetland issues, decided that not to listen to what the courts had to say and to use his executive power to push this project through. It's a $90 million project, much of which is funded by the taxpayers and grant money and federal subsidies, and the whole way these things are popping up with the federal government's approval and the state level approval, and the impacts, on me and people like Karen and people on the Cape. It's unconscionable, and I can't understand how this is being allowed to happen. Not only statewide, but all over,
right.
And the impacts. And I'm waiting for my life to be turned upside down. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm worried. I'm already worried about it.
Now, let me ask you, Florida, Massachusetts is located where in the Berkshires?
It's like the highest point on the Mohawk Trail.
Oh, okay. And you have proposed turbines that are coming?
They are here. They are all up,
ready
to be turned on, and it's supposed to be happening by it's a days away at this point, and if they don't get turned on by December 31st, they lose a subsidy of 2.2 cents in energy credits or some type of subsidized kickback money. So I'm sure these things are, we're very close.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very upsetting to, the town voted for it. They voted for it in 2003. And the money they're getting back for these things is nominal.
Right.
And
in 2003.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible just to think that it was way back then. Now, with all this new information, I wonder whether or not it can be revisited.
We've asked. I've been to the town. I had Iberdrola's representative at the town select board meeting, and they turned a blind eye. I asked for a sound study. to get an ambient sound, which is a normal sound here, and Mass state law requires that they stay under 10 decibels above ambient sound. They said they had done a sound study, which was a modeled sound study. It wasn't an actual study. And it's a cost, it's $8,000 or $10,000, I believe, to do a proper sound study, and no one is standing up, to get this thing done for us out here, and it's all with the state and local level approvals that all this stuff is happening.
When I'm listening to you, and first of all, you have our complete sympathy and empathy, because that's a terrible situation out there. But I was struck by how many elements of the story I hear over and over. We were in litigation. We said no. We didn't want them. And yet these things get approved. And one of the really concerning things that's coming up in Massachusetts is that the governor wants complete control over siting. Well, I live on West Island, and I can tell you they want to put turbines there. And it will be the ruination of West Island, the ruination of tourism down there, the ruination for the environment. And Governor Patrick, I firmly believe, wants to skip over local control. Now, local control was not able to save us with the little bay turbines, but it seems to be working better than state control and federal control. And one of the reasons I think that is because, it's easy to love an idea. The idea of the turbines is green, clean energy, and that's easy to love, and why wouldn't you love it?
Absolutely right.
But the devil's in the details.
That's the whole problem. Caller, what are you going to do from here forward?
We're making... I've been here for 28 years, had never any plan to ever leave. I have grandchildren who have enjoyed this place. I was hoping their grandchildren would enjoy this place. And now we're talking about having to, knowing better to, having to get out of here. And it's hard even to verbalize that. And it's nothing we ever intended. And, for our own health benefits, and we're not in perfect health. I'm 60 now, so we're hoping to end our lives here, but we may not be able to.
My friend, would you please stay in touch with me personally on this program, and of course with your group too, Louise, but would you please stay in touch with us and let us know how things are going, please?
I will.
Thank you so very, very much. What a phone call.
And if anyone wants information on the Hoosick Wind Project, there is a website out there, HoosickWindProject.com, and Friends of Florida and Monroe. And, there's a lot of information out there.
Again, thank you. And Louise wants to say one last thing.
Well, I just want to say that, money is an issue. And if you note... where they're placed in the turbines, and it's easier to place them in places where people don't have the money to make the fight.
Thank you, caller, so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Florida, it's this is all starting to make a different complexion. You're an artist. The face of this is changing. It's almost... Well, no, it has turned into a Dorian Gray. 9960500. Hi there, caller. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing well.
It's important to note to Louise's point about the move to site more of these turbines that in the governor's initiative, he's looking at 2,000 megawatts by 2020. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but if you consider the two turbines in Little Bay and Fairhaven are 3 megawatts.
Wow.
So how many turbines will have to be sited by 2020 to hit his number? Now, if projects like Cape Wind continue to be delayed, you're going to see more land-based turbines, and they'll have to site these turbines. If you look at the landscape, the Massachusetts landscape, with the exception of the Berkshires and in Western Mass, in our area, they're going to have to site these turbines close to residences. And certainly West Island, in a study of a couple of years ago, West Island is literally in the sights of the governor because it is state-owned property and it's prime property, as you might imagine, for the siting of turbines. And those folks who were part of Save West Island more than 20 years ago worked hard to preserve that land and put it in the hands of the steward of the state, figuring that land would be safe. And now they're challenged by what could be a wind turbine farm on West Island, which is a travesty. And currently there are boards in Fairhaven who are working to limit the size of turbines, the planning board and such, but not limiting the number of turbines. Mm-hmm. So you can limit the size and say, you're going to put a turbine in you're only going to allow turbines that are half the height, or the megawatts of the ones that are on Little Bay. But if you allow 6 of those, it really doesn't help the cause much.
Right.
There are some real problems with people who are living close to 100-kilowatt turbines in Woods Hole and elsewhere. So think about that for a minute. Right. And I have gone...
Caller, thank you, by the way. Thank you, caller.
Certainly.
I want to get in one more call before we end the program. And that's you. Go right ahead, caller.
Yep, hello, how are you?
Hi.
I've got it's more of a question than an answer. A lot of these wind turbines that they're installing in the last 2 or 3 years, they have what they call gearboxes in them. And if you notice, over the last year or two, all these turbines that were installed in 2008 and 2009, in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, they had a catastrophic gearbox failure, and the turbine was only 3 years old. In Princeton, Mass., they had a catastrophic failure. And Otis Air Force Base, they have one that was installed in 2009. And that's in the process of having a catastrophic failure. Now, these turbines, and a lot of the noise comes from the gearbox. And now they're selling the turbines. And all these turbines were sold as if they were going to last 20 years. They appear to be only lasting, 3 to 5 years, and these gearboxes cost $600,000, and the crane to come and fix it for 1 day or 2 days is $150,000 because it comes on a flatbed truck with trucks with about 50 trucks to bring the crane in. Do you follow me?
Of course I do. I don't have any more time, but I want to thank you for that. I was unaware.
In other words, they're having a huge mechanical problem.
Yes, of course.
And the new ones are being sold as if they have direct drive, and they don't have the problems of the older turbines.
Right.
And, how do you know the newer ones with these permanent magnets in them aren't going to fail in 2 or 3 years, just like these ones with the gearboxes?
You bring up a very, very excellent, valid point. Thank you, caller.
So the operation management of these things is just... the operation and maintenance is just being overlooked.
Right. 9960500 is our number, but I don't have any more time for calls. I just have a minute to thank you, Karen Isherwood. I don't even know how to put this in words. Our hearts go out to you and to your kids and to your situation, living so close to these turbines that has truly just torn your lives apart. And I thank you for being courageous enough to coming on the air and sharing this with the general public. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Louise, thank you for joining us again. Your information was vitally important.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will resume our discussions tomorrow right here at 1420. If you have any comments, you can always go to WBSM.com.